Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. I have the great pleasure and honor to introduce a wonderful, wonderful artist, Daniel Smith Ambassadors, and a wonderful friend of mine. Welcome, Linda. Thank you very much for being with us today. Linda, I can talk half an hour about Linda, but I will do it just for a minute. Linda is a beloved teacher of many, many years. She has thousands of students through the years. She is a past president of Northwest National Watercolor Society, of San Diego Watercolor Society, past board member of American Watercolor Society and Watercolor West, and she's the past president of International Watercolor Society. She has a lot of years dedicated to watercolor and to all of us artists. Welcome, Linda. Thank you very much for being here, and thank you for everyone joining us today.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. When they asked me to do this, they asked me three questions. What inspires your color selection? Do you have any color mixing suggestions? And what are your favorite subjects and how do you achieve them? So that's what I'm going to work on today and what I'm going to talk about. So the very first one is what inspires color selection. And I go back maybe 50 years. Yeah, 50 years. I hate to admit that. I was in Mexico and there was an Indian who was dyeing wool to make weavings from. And she made all her own dyes. And she used the copal. She used the little cochinilla bug that grew on the cactus and pulverized it and added lime juice. And she used the rocks from the river and boiled them and got her blue. And she said that most artists don't understand what is really red, yellow, and blue. And I already had a degree in art. And when I was in school, I would ask teachers if red, yellow, and blue are primaries, why can't I make every color from them? And they would say, when you get good enough, you can. And I kept trying and trying. Anyway, I went to Mexico and this woman said, no, 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 use these colors. And she took 3 glasses of water and she put some red in and she put some yellow in and she made the most gorgeous orange I have ever seen. She took some yellow and some blue and made the most beautiful green I had ever seen. And orange, she took yellow and red. And then she proceeded to mix all 3 and to make beautiful grays, to make beautiful browns, to make beautiful olive greens. And so I came home just mind boggled that with a teaching degree and with a degree in art and painting and printmaking, that I didn't know what red, yellow, and blue was. And so I came home and decided that the reproduction colors, the reproduction yellow, the cyan, and the magenta were the colors that she was actually making and using and able to mix all her colors from that. So even though on my palette, and I'm going to show my palettes in a second, even though I have other colors, there are 3 colors that I rely on very, very heavily. And that is Hansa Yellow Light, Quinacridone Rose, and Phthalo Blue Green Shade. And if I have those 3 paints, I can paint anywhere and I can make any color I need. Now, it doesn't mean that I don't get a little lazy and don't enjoy picking up some interesting other colors occasionally. But whenever I don't have a color or whenever I'm just doing a color study, I go to these 3 colors. And so I have several different palettes. I have this larger one that I use if I'm doing a full sheet or a big piece. I have this medium size one that I do if I'm doing a quarter sheet or if I'm traveling. And then I have 2 more smaller palettes that I absolutely love. These are from Art Toolkit, And what I really like about these is if I travel, I can pop out. Oops, come on. They're magnet and they actually magnet. If I use all of this up, I have this backup and I can put a whole new one in. So I don't have to take any extra color with me when I travel or when I go out. I could be gone for a month. And in my sketchbook, I could be sketching every single day, and this would get me through it. These are just a wonderful size. They're big enough to get my paintbrush in, but they are very thin. I don't know. There you go. Can you see how thin they are? So they're not very heavy. They're very, very light. This one is the size of a credit card. This one is just a little bit bigger, but this is in my purse all the time. If I were going to do a demo or I was going to be doing something a little larger, yes, I would go to this other travel palette. And I'll explain the colors in just a second. Escoda brushes are my all-time favorite. And I have a set of Escoda brushes that I am in love with. I have two great big, whoops, can't hold them up. There we go. I have two pointed, I have two flat, I have three flat, one extra small one, and then a 10 and a 12. And everything I do, whether it's quarter sheet, whether it's in the sketchbook, whether it's a full sheet watercolor page, this is what I'll use. And the only thing different I do between a quarter sheet and a full sheet is just change the size of the brush. So if I were in my sketchbook, I might be using the 10. If I were on a quarter sheet, I might be using the 12. If I was on the half sheet, I might be using the 20. And if I'm on a full sheet, I'm probably up at the 22. And I was very, very fortunate to get to visit the Escoda factory when I was there. And they were so generous and gave me a whole bunch of brushes to try and to test. And I have absolutely fallen in love with them. So if you ask me what brushes I use, absolutely it's the Escoda brushes. I live with them all. I mean, I love them. Again, the dot cards. When I picked my dot cards, one of the things Daniel Smith does so well is it really tells you every single thing about your paint. It tells you whether it's transparent. It tells you whether it's permanent. It tells you whether it's opaque. It tells you whether it's lifting. And they do a beautiful job. And they also do on the dot cards. But if you don't have a dot card, you've got the main brochure from them. I went through and I decided that I wanted the same colors. And I've been using these colors now, honestly, for 50 years. I have done, I don't know, 3,000 paintings in my lifetime. I'm 82 years old, so that gives me a lot of years to paint. I have been using those three colors as my base for 50 years, and I'm never going to give them up because I can make whatever I want. One of the things that I love to do when I'm playing with my colors is I have the sketchbook that I just do Zentangles in, but I see how many different color harmonies, how many different color palettes, how many different things can I make with those same three colors. And I don't like to just do test sheets. I know a lot of people do charts and have little squares. I don't know why. I have to have a product. I have to see something finished. And so can you see me making all different kinds of colors from those same three colors? And I keep pushing myself and testing myself to see what a variety of colors I can come up with my palette. And even with just, actually, these were all done with this little palette. And it was basically done with that red, yellow, and blue. But look at how many reds. Look at how many violets. Those colors are transparent. They're luminous. They just shine. And I absolutely, oops, didn't finish that one, I guess. Just love it. So my advice to any artist starting out is that you study your pigments, you study your paints, Years and years ago, Bars Miller, when we would take a class from him, he would make us use three transparents, red, yellow, and blue transparent. Then he would make us use a red, yellow, and blue opaque. And then he would make us use a red, yellow, and blue stain until we learned the properties of what each pigment does. And then he taught us how to introduce an opaque to a transparent so that it didn't make the transparent look like mud. So if I take, and I do have a couple of more opaque colors, this particular green is a little bit more opaque. If I'm going to put this with a phthalo blue, I have to thin this a little bit and I have to thicken up my phthalo a little so they'll have a similar consistency and they will talk to each other and work together and not look like an oddball on the page. And that for me was a wonderful lesson that he taught. And so I always tell my students, decide what kind of pigment you like. Don't just look at the chart and see what's a pretty color. Look at the chart and decide, do I really like opaqueness? Do I like the lifting colors? Do I like the stain colors? What is it you like? How transparent do you want it to be? And then the other thing I always suggest, and again, Daniel Smith is so good, or John is so good, I say Daniel Smith as a company, to say which ones are permanent. There are a lot of paints that all paint companies make that are not meant for paintings that are going to hang on the wall. I have a painting from Robert E. Wood that I spent $1,200 for, a full sheet that is now a white sheet of paper. Totally disappeared because it was fugitive color. And so Daniel Smith in all their charts tell you whether it's a permanent color or not. Opera is not a permanent color. There's a lot of 9-year fugitive colors, and that means it's mixed with a fugitive and a permanent, and in 9 years it will totally disappear. And if you don't believe me, take a look at this painting I have. Big, full sheet, gorgeous painting that disappeared. So I always tell students, you may not think you're doing masterpieces and you may not think you're an experienced painter yet, but if you get a really good painting, you will hate it if it disappears in 10 years. You will just look back and cry and say, why didn't I? Because it doesn't cost any more to get a permanent pigment than it does a fugitive. So look at the chart. Daniel Smith has listed in every single chart they have how permanent it is. And I will only use number ones. So if you look at my dot card, every one of these say number one on them. Why? Because that's what I want. I don't want someone buying my work and having it disappear. On the back of the dot cards, and a lot of you are reps, so you know this, but there's a lot of people here not. There is a full explanation of the staining, the non-staining, the granulation, the transparency. And that is all under every single color. It will tell you all the properties. You don't have to test every color yourself. They're telling you what each color is going to do, whether it's going to be opaque, whether it's going to lift. I use all stain colors. I love the quinacridone. I love the phthalos. Those are my all-time favorite colors. And people often tell me, oh, well, I don't like that because I can't lift a stained color. And I say, oh, yes, you can. I painted this just a little bit ago. Uh-oh, what did I do with, there it is. If I take this tape and I block off, now this is phthalo blue and this is quinacridone rose. And if I take a Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean, what am I trying to think of? Stella, help me out. It's
Magic
a little
sponge.
Magic
Eraser.
sponge. The original one. And I painted this pretty dark.
I did not know about this. I just recently learned it.
Now, it doesn't go back to white, but it goes back so light, believe me, that's as light as I will ever need. So I can't take a whole painting off But if I just need to get back a white, I can get to almost white. It has a little tint, but I actually like the little tint. It doesn't bother me at all. So those people who say to me, I never use stain colors because you can't lift, you just need a Mr. Clean Magic eraser. The other thing you can use is an electric eraser. If you take an electric eraser, you know those little, they look like a pencil, but they have a battery in them. You can erase right through to the through the stain colors. And I just happen to really like them. Why do I like them? I like the colors that I chose because of the way that they mix. Can you see my palette and my paper? Yeah.
You see the setting.
When I mix that yellow and that red, I want you to see how many different shades I can get. I can get so many oranges. And if I put a teeny bit of blue, I can then get into the browns, every shade of brown that's possible. Whoops, let's move it down. I can make out of these three colors absolutely the most gorgeous. Oops. Oranges, greens, and purples.
Hi, Linda, which colors are you using now? Are you mixing?
Okay. I am using Hansa Yellow Light. I am using Quadacridone Rose, and I am using Phthalo Blue Green Shade.
Amazing.
And I can mix any. I have an exercise my students used to do where we would do a whole painting like this, and they were shocked at how many colors they could actually make. And again, if I take blue and red and I make my purples, they are the most gorgeous purples anywhere. Now, I do get lazy and I do like to touch into some of these other colors. Don't get me wrong. But my basic palette, and if I had to be left on a desert island, all I would ask for were these three colors. I could paint for the next 100 years with those colors. I wouldn't say I wouldn't miss the others, but not enough that those wouldn't be the ones I would pick. So unfortunately, the camera is not showing it as brilliant as it really is. And I start to mix them to.
Very nice mixes. You are an amazing teacher, Linda. My students are missing you.
I'm missing them. So can you see it? I can also make black from those three easily. And I can make browns. I just, like I said, I absolutely love it. And I love how transparent that these will dry. And I like that they sit still and I can glaze over them and they don't lift. It's almost like using an acrylic in a way because it just sits there really beautifully. And so I just, like I said, oops, my dot card's getting all wet. When I look at my dot card, these are the cards, these are the stains. Some of these others are fun. And so one of the fun colors that I love is the buff. So if I take buff and I add it, I get an opaque pigment. So people say, don't you ever miss not having opaque paints? And I say no, because if I add either a little teeny touch of white or a little teeny bit of buff, I get this beautiful gray, steel gray, purple gray, just by adding a little bit of buff into it. Or, oops, I don't have it on the palette now. It's usually right there, a little bit of white. But actually, I prefer to use buff. And buff gives it a little bit of texture, a little bit of granulation, not much, but just enough to make it kind of fun. So all the colors that are on my palette, I can literally make from these three colors. And I'm not trying not to sell paint and say you don't want to buy other colors. You see what I have. I've got palettes full of colors because it is fun to test and to try new things. But whenever I'm in a hurry, in a rush, or I'm under pressure, I go to those three colors because I know I can do anything I want with them. And it's just the way it is. Now, one of my other tricks that everyone always laughs at is the toilet paper roll. When I used to travel, every hotel had an extra toilet paper roll. And so when I do my washes, let me just turn that over.
Linda is famous with the toilet roll.
So if I start up here and I put some color down, and then I go here and pick up other color. Do you see this? Nope, move it down, Linda. There we go. So I pick up another color. I love the way colors granulate and mix together. But if I tilt it on the angle of a toilet paper roll, then it does beautiful things. Do you see those just blend together?
The gravity.
Gravity is what does all my granulation. And in all my white clothing, this would be how I would do white clothing. I would simply keep changing color. And then when it dried, I would come in and put dark next to it. And you would think you saw a white shirt. And I'll be showing you that in my paintings later. But that's that. If you want the secret to how I get the washes that I get, it's simply the height of a toilet paper roll. And the way colors mix when you let them run. And if I have to stop, I always stop on a horizontal because now that gives me a minute before it will dry. And then I won't get any blooms or watermarks because now I'll put my brush right into that and continue. And just see how it doesn't run back. It just it keeps following down. Can you see that, how it keeps changing? And so when I do, and this isn't going to show up terribly well, but hopefully it shows up some. When I do this white shirt, can you see that pink go into the yellow, go into the blue? Can you see it bluer there and warmer there? Well, I took this entire body and put this gray over everything that was in shade. Then when it dried, I came back and put the pants on, and then it made that shirt look like a white shirt. The same with here. His shirt, this whole area and his pants and his socks were all this mixture that I was just showing you. And then I went in and added local color. I know it's a weird way to work, but it's my way.
It's a wonderful way.
I also love to just mix color ahead of time. When I travel, sometimes I just travel with a whole bunch of sheets with a wash on them already. Why? Because my painting's a third of the way done. If I go on location, if I do this, it will look like shade and a sunset. If I turn it this way, it will look like sand and a sky. And some of them will be vertical. Come on, where's the vertical? There we go. So I always have this whole stack in all sizes. I never know what's up. I never know whether it's going to be this way or whether it's this way, but I love doing this. I also really like doing it in my sketchbook. So I will take tape and I will tape around the areas of my sketchbook, and then I will do a wash with those three colors or with whatever colors I choose. This is my little travel has two little water containers, and that just clips right on here. And then my little palette, I just clip to the side right here, and I can sit in my lap and do a painting. And these two paintings had the wash on them before I went out. It was rainy, it was cold, we didn't want to stay long. So I just took and put a beach scene on top of the wash that was already there, and I didn't have to wait for it to dry. So a lot of my paintings start that way. And you'll see, I sketch constantly, by the way. The other advice that I have for students is, if you want to be a painter, learn to draw. People ask me how come I can draw figures and I can draw figures moving. I have sketchbook after sketchbook after sketchbook after sketchbook of drawings. So how did I learn to draw? I learned to draw by drawing. And that, honest to goodness, is the only way you're going to learn to draw. This is in an airport. This is in the same airport. I'm getting ready for a trip. I often will, whatever palette I'm using, I'll put the colors out so I remember. This is an Italy trip. And again, a lot of times I just take those three colors and just work on location with those three colors. Why? Because it makes life very easy for me. Can you see that? It's not very good on the screen. That's pretty dark, but this has all that color. It was over everything, and then I came back. I'm hoping I find one. Oh, turkey. Besnik. Not a very good one, a Besnik, but one a Besnik.
Yeah, I remember that, Linda.
Yeah, and then Bulgaria. Can't think of his name. My mind is gone.
That's another with his wife.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Cassie.
Grazie.
But
Linda,
I'm
you know that
showing
I'm
this.
still, Linda, sorry to interrupt. You know that I'm still using the idea how to make the sketchbook with the cutting of the full sheet.
Yes, I love
That's
that
very good
sketchbook.
idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's amazing thing.
So here's one. This is what he's talking about. And this one's yellow because I painted the sheets before I did it all yellow, Besnik. So now when I do a sketch, they'll all kind of have a yellow background. And I love these sketchbooks because they're one sheet of paper. Well, anyway, they're one full sheet of paper, and you just keep folding until you make a whole book out of them. And then you can do the book backwards or forwards. They're kind of fun.
On both sides.
Yeah. Oh, here's one. The cover ripped off. Oh, this one will open. I haven't glued it. So if you really look at this, it's one sheet of watercolor paper. And it just requires 3 cuts. And you can't see the whole thing, but I'll try to get it in. It's one sheet of watercolor paper, and you fold it, fold it, fold it, fold it, fold it, fold it. And now I've got a book that opens both ways. And it's just a fun way to do this. Costa Rica. It's Terry and her husband. Yeah. There's Terry again. This is the house that Sylvia from Costa Rica was born in. Anyway, the reason I'm showing these backgrounds we did on the ship. We were out on a cruise or a day cruise. And sometimes I do this type of drawing so that when I get a figure, I have something to put behind them. So the figures are never from where I drew the figure. I take backgrounds that I've drawn or sketches that I've done, and then I add a figure on top. So a lot of this is all the Bulgaria. No, this one is the Costa Rica trip. A Mexico trip. Sometimes Zentangles sneak in. Yeah, there's another one. Day of the Day, another thing is San Miguel. So these will actually end up as small pieces behind figures in my big paintings. But I love to go out and sketch. Absolutely love. Ask Stella. I'm happiest when I'm sitting outside just sketching.
It
So
was wonderful
I just want
in San Diego to go sketching with Linda.
Oh, here's a good one. Do you see how this green and purple is just all over the figures? Well, I'll come in and put local color on it, and that wherever I don't do it will end up looking like a white shirt. Here's another one, my grandson, and here's another one from India that is just the wash. See, this has orange, and then it has green, and then it has red. And when I put the flesh on and I put the dark pants on, that shirt will just glow as a white shirt. Again, those blouses. Here's a good one. See that gray that's on there? Well, then I put the pants on and the belt on and the hair on, and all of a sudden you think that's white clothing. Again, these backgrounds that I just sketch. Yeah, just what I do. Okay. I can't read my own writing what I'm supposed to do next.
What inspires Linda?
Okay. Well, we're not quite ready. What time are we? Okay. Actually, we could do that. Let me do the slideshow and then we'll have question and answers after. Because
Great.
I think that will answer the next question is what inspired me. And a lot of things inspired me. So let me go to Bridge. Oh, wait, we have to go to sharing, don't we? Let me close this. So we have to share the screen. How did we do that earlier? Help.
Calling on Ashley.
You and the technology person, Linda.
I think
all
Ethel has to
admire
say
you for
share
that.
And
screen.
we've enabled the
Linda-
share button.
Yes, exactly.
We did it just a little bit ago.
Share button, they said.
So yeah, Ethel would have enabled the share screen button and then you can just
Was she?
Yeah, it's
My
already
virtual
enabled.
camera. I'm sorry, say that again.
The
Ashley.
share button from Zoom is already enabled, Linda. So I think the next step now is to locate Bridge and then hit the share button.
there you go. That should work.
Yeah, but I don't see you don't share it from Bridge, you share it from Zoom.
Which is already enabled. I think Ashley could more or less point you to where the location of the share button now.
Well,
Are
I
you
don't think
seeing Bridge? Are you seeing Bridge right now?
No.
No.
Is it within OBS? Do you need to change that on OBS?
Yeah, she has
No?
to share. Ashley, could you help?
I am not really sure. I think
Who did it earlier?
well, it was
Ashley.
I'm looking. She's got virtual camera on already. So I think Linda, do you need to click share within Zoom?
That's what I was just looking for. I'm sorry.
Isn't it in Zoom down there somewhere?
Yeah, down at the bottom on my screen it says share, and then you can just
You know what? Everybody was blocking it. Desktop. Share.
there you go.
Okay.
Sorry, I
Okay.
wasn't much help.
There we go. We admire you for your technology knowledge, Linda.
Oh, thank you. So, this goes way back. This goes back 50 years and what I was painting back then. And I was always intrigued with sunlight. I loved sunlight. And so long before I was doing people, whatever I did always involved sunlight. And this is a trip to Greece I took, and you'll see that no matter what I did, it had to do with the sunlight. And it had to do with a limited palette, and it had to do with simple, big shapes. From the time I was a little girl and drew at the Brooklyn Museum, I always liked big, simple, light, dark, medium shapes. And so 50 years ago, this is who I was. And one more, I think.
Yeah, yeah, big shapes and trivalis. Perfect. Simple and
Then I started to do a lot of travel. Well, that was travel as well. This is Bali. And so instead of painting all the buildings, I just did the sky and the kites. I mean, that's how simple I wanted to be. Then I became really enamored with sunlight to an extreme almost. And this is my granddaughter came along. And this I used Misket and then did a random wash, removed the Misket, and hardly did anything. And then I did her brother. And again, I was just loving the shapes of light. So when you ask what motivates me to paint, it's sunlight. If I don't have sunlight, it's very hard for me to paint. And whether it's a child or a cactus or whether it's teddy bears, at this point, and I'm only showing a few from each, I have literally done thousands of paintings in my lifetime. So I only put like 2 or 3 of each type of thing. Then I became really intrigued with chairs. And I did hundreds of paintings of chairs, but the sunlight on the chairs and the shadow of the chairs was what intrigued me. And so you'll see, I think I have about 5 or 6, but for about a year or 2 or 3, maybe even, everything I did was chairs. No matter where I went, I would find a chair to paint because I was intrigued with them. I was enamored with them. I was in love with them. And sandals and coolers and towels and shoes and shadows that they were all casting was who I was at that point. So some people only know me as doing figures on the beach, but I've gone through a lot of different periods and a lot of different phases that made me the person I am today. Then all of a sudden, people started showing up in the backgrounds of my chairs. And I didn't even know it at the time, but looking back, now I have to laugh at how many of these chairs started to have people. Then all of a sudden, the chairs had people in them or on them. And again, it was just a natural progression. I didn't even notice the change. I was still doing chairs, but somehow these people snuck into my painting. This was one, my daughter announced she was pregnant. This girl was pregnant, but I wasn't allowed to tell anyone. So I did several paintings that all told the secret. And this woman is knitting baby clothes. So it was all about my daughter's pregnancy. I've always painted my life. But then, like I said, for several years, I wasn't really doing people. They were part of the chairs. Then they went into hammocks and they went into all kinds of other things. Then I went to Florida and we were in the 5th floor condominium of an apartment. And every day I did a painting of the shadows walking along with people. And I did a huge series of looking down on people. And again, it was just something that tickled me and that I enjoyed doing. And actually, I loved doing. Then I became intrigued with people and dogs. And so then I did a whole series of people who had dogs. And just see that this is a good one to see all the colors in his shirt. Do you see how there's yellow, there's green, there's blue in that shirt? Well, that would have been just the way I did that wash I just showed for you. I also loved when the people were ignoring me and the dog was glaring me down. And I did several paintings that did that as well, which was kind of fun. Then I became enhanced with the fact that reflections have to come towards you and shadows could go opposite of the sun. So then I did a whole series of paintings that had a reflection and a shadow, and learning the difference between the two and making them work. Another reflection. Then my father died, and I decided I had never even taken a good photograph of him. So this is my husband, my son, and a good friend. And I started to do family. And that's how I actually got into doing people. It was really about my family and recording happy, healthy times while people were still there, my son and a friend. My husband and some friends when we were in Washington, D.C. A really good friend and his daughter, my goddaughter. I just loved this picture of her. Another one of my husband and that same couple. My nieces, I had to design a coloring book, and I wanted the coloring book cover to go no matter whether it was upside down or not. And so I put one girl upside down and one not, just because I thought that would make a fun cover on a book. Again, my son and his friends. I mean, so I really was painting my life. I wasn't out there looking to paint anything but what interested me and what I loved. I am so glad to have this painting. This is my mother and my two nieces, my mom in healthy, happy times. And it's so much fun to see that. Every time I see it, I smile. She loved that. This is my husband, his mother, and his sister and brother-in-law. So a lot of my pieces, again, my son and friends, my husband and his mother, again, my son and friends, my nieces again. This one, the San Diego Watercolor Society earns. By the way, for some reason, the camera is making all the flesh darker than it really is. It's not really that dark in person. And it might be that some of these are from slides and that the red in the slides changed or something like that. I wish I could reshoot some of these, but oh well. Then I started to teach workshops. This is up at the San Juan Islands on the ferry. So no matter where I went, I was always looking for sunlight. I was looking for figures. I was looking for big shapes. Just enjoying life. There's a good one to see how much color is in the back of his shirt, and yet you still read it as a white shirt. And all it is that mixture of colors, like I showed you when I lifted the board on the toilet paper and let the color run down. That's what most of that painting is. Lacana, Washington, a parade in Lacana. Again, traveling Mexico, just he's clamming or something. I don't know. Families. Again, this was Florida. They were doing a lot of buildings, so I had to do construction site. And I tried to figure out how I could do a construction site. And of course, the minute what I do, I put two figures looking at it. At that point, I also became interested in older people. Life sneaks up on us pretty quickly, and all of a sudden you're a little bit older and you realize that senior citizens today are living beautiful, rich lives. They're playing whatever this game is. They're doing all kinds of things and enjoying life together, and just love and romance. And I did a lot of reading on subliminal art, and I thought if in my house I had a lot of positive feedback through my painting. People ask me, when is my painting successful? And I say, when somebody looks at it and just takes a deep breath. I don't really care if everybody likes what I do. I like what I do. Again, sailboats, again, up in the San Juan Islands on one of the ferries. And again, some of the older people enjoying life and just, I love these women. I mean, they're out on the beach, they're in their house coats, but they are having fun and they are talking up a storm and enjoying each other's company. I just think that's a wonderful thought to have. I love the body language. I started to do a lot of studying of body language and how they stood and what were they saying when their hands are on the hips. Are they mad at each other? Are they explaining something? I just love the story that's told behind it. This one was kind of fun. He had earphones on. She had earphones on. He was talking. She was talking. Neither of them were listening to anything, but they were enjoying life. I love these characters.
But the
I love
sunlight,
shadows.
your sunlight.
Again, an older company that are still best friends. To me, that's just priceless. Again, these women on the beach just having a good time. Don't you want to know what they're talking about? Don't you wish you could read their minds?
You can make a story out of it.
And then my dad had died, and the next door neighbor's wife had died. So I talked my mom and him into going out Thursday just for dinner, just to break up the dinner hour. If you've ever lost a spouse or had a death in your family, dinner time is the worst time of all. And all of a sudden they were flirting, and it just cracked me up. And so I had to do a painting of senior citizens flirting and new romance. That was kind of fun. Then we had a house in Montana, and I did a whole series. I must have done about 200 paintings of snow scenes. And snow is just like sand, I realized. All I had to do was make it a little more yellow or a little more blue, and you thought it would put skis there, and you thought it was snow instead of sand. So that was easy. My daughter and her husband off cross-country skiing. Again, a lot of the stuff had my nieces out playing in the snow, making a snowman. My own skis stuck in the snow. So they're really not a lot different than the figures I do, except this is skis. Again, it's about the shadow, it's about the light, and it's about the background, and where was this person going when they took the skis off. Then I started to do a lot of commissions. I was part of a gallery. I was very fortunate. Every painting I took to the gallery sold. That was back in the 70s, and that was a good time to be an artist. It's a lot harder now. But a lot of people in La Jolla, they were very wealthy people, and they all wanted a Linda Dahl painting on their walls. And so I got to do a lot of them. This was the hardest painting I think I ever did in my life. They commissioned, this girl's father passed away in the emergency room where she was a nurse, and she had to go out and sit in the emergency room, and she never realized how desolate it was in that room. So she commissioned me to paint a painting for the emergency room that would honor her father. Took me a long time to come up with this design, but I asked her to bring me any kind of photo she had, and she had this one of these sailboats, and I took her son out into the parking lot and took a photo of him, and that's the father in the first boat winning the race and crossing over before everybody else. And the son knows he'll see him again another time, but he's going to miss him. And so she loved the painting, and she loved that she knew it was about her dad, but nobody else did. So that was a hard one, though. Now we're back to current times. My neighbors were very good to me when my husband died, and I've had 17 surgeries in the last 2 years, and they've been taking care of me and doing wonderful things. So for each of them, I did a painting one Christmas, and this is one of the couples that helped me out a lot, and they hang it in their living room and love it. So that's kind of fun. Again, just friends, really good friends. Wendy and Johanna, I travel all over the world with these two women, and I just love them. And then this is one that I've done recently. It's the Peggy Guggenheim house in Venice, and these boys sitting looking at this painting. And then the last one is a one I just did for a couple that was getting married as a wedding gift, and they met on a boat and they got engaged on a boat. So I did a painting of them on the boat, and it's a full sheet, and I gave it to them. And that's it. So any questions?
That's wonderful, Linda. Thank you very much for sharing your amazing history of paintings.
Well, I really find that people see what I do now, and they think I always did that, and they think it's easy, that I just came up with a whole new style and a whole way of painting. And they don't realize that it was a growth. It went through lots of phases until it got where it is, and it's still going through phases. Right now, I'm really enjoying Is it this book? No, wrong book. Right now, I'm really enjoying black and white drawings. My back is not doing well, and I can sit in the chair and just do drawings. And it's just an old crosshatch, which we learned in, God, 50 years ago in college. But I'm just loving going out, just sketching, just doing some of these flowers, doing black and white. Every once in a while, I have to sneak color in. As I say, this was one that was all red. It was just a red square. And I did the drawing on the beach. And then I added a white Posca pen on top to show up the highlights on the building. I love to go to the zoo and sketch. I love to do my Zentangles. More Zentangles.
Linda, if you want to click to stop sharing your screen, we'll see things a little bit bigger because you're still screen sharing. There we go. Thank you.
Good. Okay. And so, this is just, matter of fact, Stella was just here, and we went to the pumpkin patch, and we went out to another place, and then down the street, there's a beautiful magnolia tree. Then we went to the train station. Then we went to Balboa Park. So, my advice to anyone and everyone is sketch every day. Don't let a day go by, even if it's you're only drawing your hand. Eye-hand coordination for an artist, I believe, is so important. And the only way you're going to keep it is to use it. You don't use it, you lose it. So people wanting, they ask me, how do you become a famous artist? How do you become a gallery artist? How do you become this? How do you become that? And all I can say is do what's in your heart. Don't try to paint for anybody else. Don't try to paint for a juror in a show. I never in my life sent a painting that wasn't my own painting to a show. I never painted just for the juror. I don't believe in that. I don't think you're being true to yourself. And I think we need to be true to our own heart and our own soul, basically. So, I thank you for inviting me. I know we're getting close to running out of time. Were there any questions?
Linda, I have a question. You had your 3 favorite colors in your little mini palette. What else did you put in there? You have 2 little palettes. Your sketchbook palette, your travel. What other colors did you have in it?
Okay.
Letty, did you share her dot card, Letty?
Yes,
in the chat.
So I always have a dot card in the back of a sketchbook because there is more than enough paint on a dot card to do a sketch if you don't have your palettes. I've been using, on location, I've been using a water brush, but in that little palette, let me open, where did it go? Here it is. Okay, so here's my red, here's my blue, and here's my yellow. Whoops. So this is my blue. Can I get a little more light on this?
And this is the pale blue green shade.
But I probably have, okay, so I have New Gamboge. I have Quinacridone Gold. I have Pyro Scarlet. I probably have Quin Burnt Orange. I probably have Cerulean Blue. I probably have Cobalt Blue. I have Buff Titanium. I don't have Chinese White, and I don't have black on this. And Cerulean. So except for this bottom row, I have what's on my dot card. I mean, that's what I use. And I do use the 3 most, but this is my, whoops, paint all over me. I use the colors that are on my dot card. That is what I love. That is what I use. And I'm thankful to have these dot cards because so many, the only one that's missing is turquoise. Or wait a minute.
What are your top 3 colors on the top of the little palette, the darker colors?
Oh no, there's the turquoise. Okay, this here.
Yes.
Quin purple, phthalo blue green shade, phthalo blue red shade.
Okay. Thank you.
Then then my quin rose, my turquoise, my cobalt blue, my pyrrole, my burnt orange, my quin gold, my Hansa, and my buff.
Thank you.
And I can't get.
It's beautiful. I love that little palette.
I love this little palette, and it's arttoolkit.com. And it's just the nicest little palette. And you get to buy how many of these you want. You can have small ones, you can have big ones, but I like big enough that a big brush will get into that area. I don't want a tiny little, I really don't like these little things up here, but I have them just for emergency.
Linda, you are refreshing.
Oh, thank you. Well, I love to teach, and I hope somebody learns something valuable that they will help them become a better painter.
And Linda still is teaching. She's teaching Zentangles, and she still teaches, and her energy is absolutely contagious.
Linda, how do you design your Zentangles?
I'm actually a certified Zentangle instructor, and so I have step-by-step pages that I give out. And let me grab one real quick.
They're amazing. It's just incredible.
So it's something everybody can do, and I teach senior citizens, like I'm not one, at the senior center. And I just absolutely love, I have to have a pen in my hand or a brush in my hand. I have to be doing something. So these are what we do in class, and everybody finishes the whole one in 2 hours in the class. I mean, I draw constantly. I really do.
Shapes.
And then, like I said, where's that other book? These were just so much fun to do. And not only was I doing the drawing and doing the Zentangles, but I was doing different color harmony studies out of that same exact palette to see how many different ways and how many different colors I could make. To me, this is, I'm always learning. You're never too old to learn. And I always want to learn something new. So how many greens, yellow greens could I make? That was the challenge that day. How many yellows and greens can I make? Just like I say, I draw constantly, and
Linda?
I love coming up with, yeah, go ahead.
Are those blank pages when you start?
Yes.
When you do the dangle, so it's not like it comes with a few shapes first.
No, I draw this and then I just start painting in.
Great.
And then my goal is always to see what color harmony can I make? What different set of colors can I work with and yet have them talk to each other and be a palette I've never used before, even if they're the same exact colors coming out of my palette.
Yeah.
But one thing Linda is not saying and not talking about, what a great designer she is. And this is a lot of knowledge behind us. We're talking about the color, but look at those designs.
They're beautiful.
I love to do these at night when I get into bed early because my back gives out, and I prop the pillow up behind my back and I sit in my bed and I do these. I mean, I love this little thing floating. Yeah.
Did anyone mention if she had a website?
Yes, lindadog.com. But see, I'll take this and do a whole painting using these colors now because I absolutely love the way those colors work together.
And Linda has Instagram and she has a Facebook. So you just plug her name in Google and you will find everywhere where she is.
I just love weaving these things through. And but yeah, this is all Daniel Smith paint. It's all watercolor paint, but it's not wet into wet. I'm a very structured type A personality, and I refuse to be what I'm not. And I can't be. I love Barbara Nietzsche's work, but I can't paint her painting. I have to paint Linda Dahl, and I have to do what Linda Dahl does, and that is draw. Let me tell one last story, and then we're done. Rex Brandt years ago said, always start with your strength, never start with your weakness. If you start with your strength, you'll be one step ahead. If you start with your weakness, you'll be 3 steps running to catch up. And I went up to him after and I said, if that is true, why do you always tell me not to draw so much? And he thought for a minute and he said, maybe because that's not my strength. And that was the day I realized that drawing was going to be an important part of my work for my whole life because it's who I am.
Yeah.
Love you all. Thank you.
Love you, Linda, and thank you so very much.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Enjoyed
Quick
it
high,
very
but
much.
who's with you, Stella?
Such good teaching. Thank you.
Wonderful. So inspiring, Linda. You inspire us all
Well,
with your energy.
hopefully that was what you were wanting today, not a demo, but just a little bit about me and what made me, what were my favorite subjects and how did I get to where I am?
We wanted you, Linda. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Linda.
Very much, Linda. Thank you very much for being with us. This is a
Thank you for having me.
honor.
An art party.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Stella, for being a wonderful host.
Brava.
Thank you, everybody, for being with us.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. See you all tomorrow.